Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I've been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to march forward through yet another offseason together. As always, you can find us on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI, and you can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about three players who I think the Jacksonville Jaguars should not consider at number 5 overall. I think the Jaguars have a lot of great options at number 5. I think that if two quarterbacks go in the top 4, they're in perfect shape. And even if one goes, they're still likely to land a really good player. But there are a few players who I've seen them mocked who I believe, and I've been wrong before. You can check the tape. I called Brian Thomas like an early day 2 receiver last year. I've been wrong before, But these are three players who I think I just would not pick at number 5. Number 1, I have to start with wide receiver Tet McMillan. It says nothing to do with how I necessarily perceive his game. I obviously think he'd be like at best probably the 5th best receiver in last year's draft class, maybe even number 6. I had Ladd McConkey graded really high. I think he's a really good player. Obviously a first-round player, in my opinion, obviously the best receiver prospect in this year's class. I've seen some really smart people compare him to Courtland Sutton, which I think if he ends up being a player like Courtland Sutton, you take that all day long. With that said, I just simply do not believe the Jaguars are anywhere near a position as a franchise where they can or should take a receiver with the number 5 pick. I think that if you do, he has to be a Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors level prospect, and I don't think McMillan's that. There's just so many other holes on this roster that this team would benefit more from taking a player in a different position, solidifying the trenches, whatever else. They are not a receiver away from being a playoff contending team or a receiver at number 5 away from competing for an AFC South title. I firmly believe that they can get a receiver in the 2nd, 3rd, even 4th rounds who can give you the same level of production that they'd be getting from a receiver at number 5. Because no matter any way you slice it, you're drafting a number 2 receiver at best if you take one this year. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be the focal point of this offense. That is not going to change no matter who they draft. And yeah, it'd be advantageous to have a guy like McMillan across from Brian Thomas Jr. who can, win against single coverage and really have two guys like kind of, I wouldn't quite call it Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but that's at least the idea if you take him. But I just don't think the Jaguars, I just think it'd be a complete luxury pick. And I don't think, especially in the first year of a new regime, that is the right way, for them really to go. Second guy, I wouldn't draft at number 5. And I know that I've floated this out there before, but Tyler Warren, Penn State tight end, I think he's the best tight end in this year's class. I like him more than like Pat Freiermuth when he came out. So I like him in the context of other Penn State tight ends. I think he's a good player. I just don't think, unless you're drafting a guy who's going to go on to be Rob Gronkowski, and I don't think even Warren, for the great year that he had, you can confidently say that. I just don't think you take a tight end that high in the draft. It just, I'm a firm believer in not using that high of a pick. Like back when the Jaguars 2019, a lot of people had them taking TJ Hawkinson in the top 10. Even then I was like, hey, that'd be terrible. And yeah, in hindsight, the Jaguars had taken TJ Hawkinson with the 1st round pick that year. That would have been a horrible pick. The last guy who I'm just iffy about them potentially picking at number 5, I think has to be Georgia defender Jalen Walker. I really like Walker's game. I really think he's a fun player to watch. He's explosive. He's violent. He plays 1,000 miles an hour, like his hair is on fire, and he doesn't care to put it out. But I'm iffy on guys who there are questions about their fit in terms of are they a linebacker or are they an edge rusher? I think he's much more of a guy who you can use as a movable chess piece and blitz all over than like Devin Lloyd. I've seen people compare him to Devin Lloyd. I don't think that makes any sense because I think Devin Lloyd's a pure linebacker while I think Jalen Walker can win as a blitzer and as a pass rusher. To me, to kick off a new regime, you don't take a player with questionable fits in terms of his transition with the number 5 pick. I think trade down, sure, potential option, makes sense. And I think Campanile would probably get a lot of run out of him. But at number 5 overall, I just think that, the Jaguars, at the very least, they need to hit a double or a triple off the wall. They can't afford to strike out. And while I don't think Jalen Walker is like a strikeout type pick, it's just a fit that I'm personally iffy on.